name is Andrea. I'm your moderator. I have Erin and Mika with me. So in terms of tonight's webinar, what are we talking about? What are the topics? How long will you be here? All really great questions. So tonight's topic is how to get accepted into a top law school. And before we kind of go into the meat and the potatoes of the presentation and tonight's discussion, just want to let everyone know that yes, you will receive a recording within a day or two. You'll receive it in your inbox. I just saw a comment about recordings. I can address that momentarily. We're looking at running this webinar for an hour. And what that means is we have a few topics we'll be covering. So we're speaking about crafting a standout personal statement, perfecting a resume, letters of recommendation that impress, navigating the application cycle, et cetera, et cetera. But on top of that, we want to give you a moment with Erin and Mika to really get your questions answered about the application process, about law school. So we love to leave some time towards the end for a Q&A. So definitely get those questions in the chat. We'll have a few little pauses within the webinar where we'll stop, take a breather, answer some questions, and keep going. With that being said, I want to give a quick moment to also introduce who we are. So we're Juris Education. If this is your first time on one of our webinars, welcome. And if you've been here before, thank you again for coming. We're super excited to have you here. We're a globally recognized law school admissions consulting firm offering comprehensive support from test prep to law school admissions and bar exam tutoring. With a 94% acceptance rate, our students get into the top law schools in the United States. Last cycle alone, our T14 acceptance rates was 34%, which is 6 times higher than the national average of 5.7%. Now, we believe in starting the law school application as early as possible, which is why we offer something called pre-law advising and profile development. This focuses on building each student's professional cover letter and resume to highlight their most meaningful experiences. We also help candidates boost their academic transcripts and GPA, find stellar internships, and create a timeline for LSAT prep. We have one goal in mind, and that goal is to get applicants into their dream law program, which I think fits perfectly with tonight's discussion. So our private LSAT tutors assess each student's strengths and weaknesses. This then helps create a custom study plan structured for the days, weeks, and months ahead. We tailor our approach to each student's unique needs and schedule, providing the right assessments and lessons as they become familiar with the test content, strategies, and format. On average, we see a 12-point increase for 45 plus hours of tutoring, and we do offer a 165 plus LSAT score guarantee with our 60-hour program. Once we've helped shape an outstanding candidate, we support in creating the perfect application. So this looks like the creation of a well-balanced list of target, safety, and read schools. We also help build strong letters of recommendation, strong resumes, amongst other things. Our admissions counselors, who are also essay writing experts, will brainstorm, outline, and edit your supplemental essays and personal statements until they are perfect. Again, our goal is to build that perfect candidate and application. We utilize every tool in our skill set to ensure the products we create with our students stand out from the rest. We're excited to be here. We love doing these, and we want to make sure that you get as much value from these programs as possible. With that being said, I'd love to pass it over to the two wonderful panelists with me tonight to introduce themselves. Erin, did you want to go first? You just happen to be there first.
Sure, I'm happy to introduce myself. It's a great evening, everyone. My name is Erin Calloway, and I am an admissions consultant with Juris EDU. I am currently a 4L evening part-time non-traditional law student at American University, Washington College of Law, here in our beautiful nation's capital in DC. I am from South Carolina originally. I have a background in public health and health administration, and I graduate in May. I'm super excited, and I'm so glad to partner with Mika on this panel. Mika, passing it off to you.
So hi, I'm Mika McDonald. I am an LSAT tutor and admissions counselor here at Juris. I graduated from law school in 2015. I attended law school at the University of Chicago. And then I clerked for a bankruptcy court judge in Delaware and worked as a bankruptcy court litigator or bankruptcy and restructuring litigator for about 5.5 years in Delaware and New York. And then I came back to teaching full-time, and admissions consulting kind of grew out of that. But yeah, really excited for this presentation today. All right.
So Mika,
You want
would
to lead us off? Oh, okay. I'll lead us off.
Sure.
Okay, so your personal statement, right, is easily and undoubtedly the third most important part of your application package behind your LSAT and your GPA. This is a chance to get admissions officers to see you as more than numbers, right? More than just a flat resume on the screen. So a big part of an effective personal statement is conveying your values and personality and what your goals are and sort of what is bringing you to law school and what do you hope to achieve post-law school with your degree. So one of the most effective ways, probably the most effective way to start off an essay is with a compelling hook, usually an event or meditation on some sort of event that lays out sort of the themes that you're going to explore over the course of the essay. The essay should not be grandstandy in any way. These are meant to be sort of human essays that convey who you are. They're genuinely personal. So show, don't tell, right? Tell us about the experiences you've gone through. And then tell us how those things shaped you or how you reacted to them. Use feeling statements. Don't tell people how they should interpret things. Talk about how you felt, how you reflected on the things that happened to you, and how that sort of carved your path moving forward. And last one is obviously a big one, connect the dots, right? This essay should be advancing themes about who you are and what's driving you, right? Whether that's public service motives, whether that's the desire to cause legal reform, or whether that's just the desire to have a very safe and, I don't know, rewarding career, right? But really, really think about what is the story you want to tell and make sure that each part of your essay moves that story forward. All right.
I completely agree. And with this personal statement, you are to show your authentic self. And so when you are crafting this narrative, you can match it to things like your resume if requested to highlight who you are as a person, because admissions is always holistic. So when you are writing your story, it's important to lead with impact. So there might have been a powerful moment or a large challenge that you've overcome in your life that highlights your unique perspective or your passion to enter the legal field. This is your chance to explain to an admissions committee why you're pursuing law. And with that, you can weave in themes that talk about who you are and what type of character attributes you have that either show purpose or growth, and ultimately your ability to be a successful attorney and advocate for your clients. You are to structure this like a typical essay, but it's more of a storyline because this is your opportunity to highlight unique aspects of the meaningful experiences that make you who you are and why you're pursuing this field. I want to highlight that having a strong conclusion is important. Don't be afraid to say, I look forward to joining your law school community. You can add that confidence boost because it reaffirms your commitment to attending that school, while also reiterating your passion for entering the field.
So, 3 steps to make a genuinely unforgettable personal statement, right? Reach deep for personal reflection. One of the things I like to do with the students I'm working with is kind of do a mock interview with them about themselves. Ask them questions like, what's the best thing that's ever happened to you? What accomplishment are you most proud of? What's the worst thing that's ever happened to you? Right? Ask yourselves questions about your own lives and kind of reflect on what's motivated you most, what's pushed you most. personal statements should not be stream of consciousness. It's perfectly permissible to do that as a first draft of a personal statement, but a good personal statement reads like a professionally written essay, right? Like an essayist making a reflection on their own life. So outline, right? Think about the themes and stories that you want to fit in there. Think about the order in which you want to introduce them. Think about how you can create good transitions between each paragraph, and edit, right? Don't turn in a first draft, turn in a fifth draft. Really, really like push yourself to do the best you can here. I can absolutely tell when people haven't edited their work. I was a practicing attorney and litigator, so this is something that I did, and it's really obvious to me when I'm getting someone's first draft versus when I'm getting like a third or a fourth or a fifth draft. And admissions officers read a lot of essays, a lot, and they can definitely tell the difference too between something that's been polished versus something that somebody just threw out there. Yeah.
So in addition to your personal statement, you will most likely need to submit a resume. And with that, you need to make sure that your resume reflects skills and experiences that are relevant to law school. And one thing that Mika and I specialize as admissions consultants is you can give us a resume of every type of experience you've had, and we can certainly help you highlight those transferable skills or character traits you've developed that will reflect back to being an attorney. As somebody who's worked in the nonprofit space for years, I can share that I've learned a lot about empathy in my work. And being an attorney, it's important to empathize with your clients and have that strong emotional rapport when you are going through certain legal challenges. If you've worked in a hospital setting and you've been around different patients, you learn about compliance and complying with rules, or say you volunteer at a food pantry and you understand the inequities in society and you want to highlight that as a potential attorney, you want to work in judicial reform. All that is to say is your resume can be customized to fit your ultimate goal of being an attorney, and you don't have to have specific legal experience to reflect your potential ability to be a successful attorney. We also like to share that showcasing leadership roles are very important, because as an attorney, you will be a leader in different spaces. We also want to share that you want to show consistency and commitment to your goals throughout your resume. And so with that, you can kind of craft a narrative within your resume that reflects your personal statement. So you kind of have a cohesive, consistent application as a whole. Mika, did I miss anything here?
No, I think that was great. I was just going to make even a more point of emphasis on leadership, because like no legal work in big law or mid law is done by yourself, right? It's all teams, right? It's working together. It might just be a team of like an associate, a junior partner, and partner, or it might be a case that has like 35 attorneys working on it. So emphasizing your ability to lead teams and work within teams is definitely really important to success in the field. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Oh, I accidentally hit it a second time. Okay, resume pitfalls. So unless you are a non-traditional applicant with work experience, or you have a genuine plethora of awards or other things to add to your resume, you should hit one page. It's considered a little bit like, unless it really genuinely warrants a second page, it should be one page. Even my resume now, as you know, somebody that's 10 years, over a decade out from law school, still only like I keep it to like a page and a half, and I have publications, and I still try to keep it tight. Formatting. if you are setting your margins to narrow, or whichever setting gives you more space to work with, and you're jamming single thing you can in there, if your bullet points for like a job entry have 3 lines to them, you're not doing this right. Your descriptions should be short but effective. They shouldn't meander. They shouldn't have big lists of small things you did. And they definitely shouldn't be duplicative of each other in any way. When you're formatting, use line spacing of some kind. And remember, you can create line spacing other than just hitting enter twice, right? So you can do more than that to play with the line spacing. Try to use columns. If you're going to put dates on the right-hand side, learn how to set up columns in Microsoft Word. I can tell when something is actually done in columns or when somebody's doing it with their tab button over and over again. It's pretty obvious just to my eye instantly. Think about what's relevant, right? Not every job you've had, not every experience you've had has to be on this resume. For example, I leave a fair bit of my work history off from like pre-law school because it had no relevance. There were things that I did in high school that were on the college resume that I used for internships and things like that, but they had nothing to do with like a path towards law. Like me working at like a fresh food market for like 6 months part-time, that has no relevance to law school application. Unless, of course, you were a leader at that position, in which case you should definitely include it. But really think about what matters, and also be really genuinely honest with your descriptions about, like, is this adding anything? Don't list every single thing you did at the job. List the things that stand out. List the things that sound most impressive. List the things that demonstrate the sort of qualities you want to demonstrate. Right.
So I just want to do a really quick check-in, and I see a ton of questions in the chat. So I think this is the perfect time to address them. Just before we do that, I just want, as a little thank you from our team, we want to offer everyone on this webinar a 10% off code for any one of our wonderful programs, and the code is 10OFF-WEB. Just as a little thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you for being here. Additionally, if you pull out your phones, you scan that QR code, that really nice orange, it'll take you back to a landing page. And if you're interested in booking a one-on-one and getting a free consultation with one of our wonderful admissions counselors, we have an entire team that is ready and willing and really excited to answer your questions. So we highly encourage you to take that opportunity. I think it's a 20 or 30-minute call, and my colleagues are just really excited to have these conversations with you. So I want to draw your attention to that. Somebody asked, will the recording be available for us to rewatch? Yes, absolutely it will. So let's start on some of these questions. So some of them have already been answered. So we just, for the sake of time, I don't think we should repeat ourselves. First question, hello from New York. Hello. I know we moved on. Not a problem. We can definitely go back to this topic. But how do you balance in your statement writing in your own voice and sounding professional? Like, can you use metaphors, sayings, idioms? And this in regards to the personal statement.
You want to take the lead on that, Erin?
Sure. So it's kind of a mixed bag. In my personal statement, I did include a quote, but the quote was relevant to an experience I had in the healthcare setting. If you're going to pick a cliche quote, you miss 100 shots you don't take, something like that, I think it could be a little corny. I think it has to tie back to your narrative and personal storyline. Also, I think it's completely fine to have a trusted mentor or a professor review your personal statement because they know you, they know your voice, they know your writing capability, and they can give you healthy feedback on the proper tone that would fit you. So that way admissions counselors know who's behind the document. What do you think, Mika?
I agree. I mean, I think it's use it effectively. Like I had a student that was in their just finishing up their master's in philosophy, and they had a really good usage of a quote of a relevant philosopher that they had written an essay, or they had written their whatever the master's dissertation level paper is on. And I thought it was a really, really effective usage of a quotation mark, of a quotation like that. So yeah, I agree. Don't be cliched. But if you have something that's emotionally moving or particularly relevant to you, and you establish that within the essay, I think it'd be really powerful.
And I'd love to offer that on our website, we actually have a tool, and I can put it in the chat for everyone. It's actually a ton of personal statements from top law schools across the country. So examples, personal information has been redacted, but you really get to understand what makes a really awesome personal statement. Awesome. So let's get on to the next question. There's a ton of questions, so I just want to be mindful of time, but I love this one. A lot of top law schools now accept GRE. Thought of studying and using GRE scores instead of LSAT, especially if there's a higher chance of doing better at GRE. So I think this person is asking our thoughts on that. Either one of you.
I think there is very little data about how effective a GRE only application is. To the extent that I don't think I can like even give you an honest answer whether this is a good idea or not, because I don't think very many people try it. The LSAT has been around forever. Law schools trust it. And I think it is, I would say take both or take the LSAT out of safety, just out of caution. That's kind of my advice, honestly.
Erin, did you have anything to add?
Any thoughts different?
I agree 100%.
Awesome. Okay, one more question. I think we can then continue on in tonight's presentation. For personal statements, is there any sort of time frame or expiration date per se that our theme should be set on? For example, when I was applying for colleges, I was largely told to stick to experiences I've had from sophomore to senior year.
I would say try to have a chronological range of experiences included. When we talk about like your motivations for who you are, or things that impacted you, childhood events are very, very powerful. Right? I had a student talk about their grandfather, who used to be a history professor, teaching her history every day on the ride home from school after he picked her up, because he wanted to hear what she had learned. And then she talked to him about all the stuff that she didn't learn in class. It was a really moving story in the context of that essay about, this drive for knowledge and thirst for knowledge. So I think you should try to have recent experiences and far back experiences if possible, if it makes sense from a narrative standpoint. Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Erin?
I agree. Many essays or personal statements that I've read talk about childhood experiences or trauma that they faced, and then later on working in certain sectors or having certain experiences that reaffirm their drive to be a certain type of attorney is a very compelling storyline and narrative. So stick to what's true for you and where your enrooted passion lies. But again, yes, tie it back to something recent, just to cover your bases. That's a good question, though.
Yeah, it's an amazing question. So we're going to move on to letters of recommendation. I see a ton of questions in the chat asking about letters of recommendation. So we'll hold off on responding to those after we go through this section.
Sure. So I'll jump in. So letters of recommendation are so important because they are the other outside eyes and ears that admissions committees use to gauge who you are as a person. And I will tell you this, not everyone you ask for a letter of recommendation will write you a positive letter of recommendation. So you need to be very strategic in who you ask, in particular because schools have certain requirements regarding these letters of recommendation. They might require 2 academic references. They might require an attorney reference. They might require 1 personal reference that's known you for X amount of years. It just depends on the school, but you need to select recommenders that know you fairly deeply based on your character, your work ethic, and that can kind of speak to either your achievements or can speak to your drive and wanting to attend law school and whether they think you will be successful as a law student and a future attorney. Anything to add, Mika?
No, I agree. I mean, schools, I would just say most schools seem to require at least 2 academic references. So that's like, I would say at minimum, you need to have 2 academic references. And then there's a lot more that it can go into everything else. But a fair number of schools I know for certain require a minimum of 2 academic letters. Yeah. All right, let's see this next one. So yeah, it goes without saying that, again, admissions officers read hundreds, thousands of these letters each year, and they can tell the difference between a letter written by someone that had you in their class and you did a really good job in that class versus someone that had you in their class and you came to office hours and then you TA'd for them the next semester and they got to know you as both a person and an academic person. It is good to get letters from people that genuinely know you, more than just a grade, but have talked to you at length at some point. If you're still in school, right? If you have a favorite class or a favorite professor, go to office hours. Try to build more of a real relationship where they can talk about who you are as a person. And that goes to choosing the right people, especially when it comes to personal recommenders. You know, it's like, oh, well, you know, my dad is friends with this judge. And it's like, well, how many times have you interacted with that judge? It's like, I don't know, 3 at like dinner at my house, like they came over. It's like, well, that's not someone who should write a letter of recommendation for you. They don't know you, right? So again, if possible, ask people that genuinely know you, think highly of you, and can articulate that well. Last thing is also very important. For letters of recommendations when applying to law school, you're going to be asked to waive your right to read the letter, right? That is going to be part of the process, and I would strongly encourage you waive your right to read the letter. So what that means is your letter of recommendation person cannot send you a draft, ask for edits, and then have you send it back to them, right? So if there are things you want them to know about or to write about, tell them that ahead of time. Share your personal statement if it's finished. Share your resume, right? Give them an idea even of like what you're trying to establish as like broader themes in your application package. Help them write a good letter. But I will reiterate, do not read if you have waived your right to read a letter, do not try to get around that. If it gets caught by the bar, it's like the character and fitness people, you might just like not have a legal career after all. So help them write good letters. Don't be tempted into breaking the rules on this. It's not worth it.
No, it's not. And make sure you give them enough time to write the letter. So many, applicants forget last minute to request recommendation letters. And then all of a sudden, they call up a professor whom they haven't spoken to in a while to ask for a large favor. And it is a favor. Professors are busy. They do write letters for potential applicants, but you need to be courteous, right? And maybe even have a check-in with them, meet them for coffee, have a virtual call, explain kind of what's been happening since you last saw them. So that way you can have or let me back up. That way you can make a polite request, right? Because this has a huge impact on your future, but you also want to be considerate of their time and schedule. I also want to add again that while typically most schools require 2 academic letters, some schools might require 3. So you need to be prepared. You also need to be prepared for recommenders, having emergencies or conflicts where you might have to pivot and find another recommender last minute. So be prepared, plan ahead, because you never know what can happen, and you don't want this one little item as a part of your package to impact your chances of being admitted that particular cycle.
Totally agree. Yeah. So the application process is going to be pretty intense in terms of there's a lot to manage here. Being organized is really important if you want to stay on top of this. You have to think about choosing schools. Then you have to look at each school's essay requirements and optional essays that you might want to fill out. So you may end up saying, oh, I'm going to write a personal statement and a diversity statement, but a bunch of the schools you apply to have heavily, not required optional essays, but strongly suggested optional essays. And so you end up writing 15 essays over the course of this, or you write 5 and then you adapt 4 of them into 7 different versions or whatever. But the point is, this is a long process. It's going to involve stuff that you didn't think of ahead of time. So get started early and figure out your deadlines. One of the things as an LSAT tutor, I always say is, I retook the test. I took it twice. Most of the tutors I know took it twice. So build that into your timeline. If you think you might retake, well, make sure you take your first test by like June so you can take your second test in August or October and have that score back when you submit your materials for the first time. As Erin just pointed out, recommenders can take time to get their stuff in. You may have to remind them a few times. You also need to think about budget. Applications are not cheap. I think CAS, the Credential Assembly Service, the sort of centralized application service LSAC runs, just the subscription is like $300. And then it's like an $80 fee per school you apply to. So you apply to 15 schools, it could be $2,000 in costs. So point being, there's some great like application planner packages out there. There's some people on Reddit that have published like little templates for managing your school applications. Go look around for that stuff or make one of your own, but definitely be organized. Otherwise, you'll start missing deadlines and you'll be waiting on something and suddenly the first round of admissions has happened at your favorite school. Yeah. And finally, review and edit. When I like spot like 1 or 2 typos in a long document, that doesn't bother me, right? But when I spot a fair number of typos in short documents, like a resume, so if I see multiple formatting mistakes in a 1-page document, I start to think that this person is just kind of sloppy and doesn't particularly care about the details. And that's not a good look for someone who's going to be a lawyer. Really not a good look for a lawyer. We're very detail oriented. So really triple check, pay attention. I always tell people zoom in on the screen, put it up to 175 and then read it and make sure your formatting is good. Make sure all of your grammar and punctuation is good. Have someone read just for that. Read for grammar and punctuation. Tell them to ignore content and just tell you if they can see anything wrong. But having a flawless application package is never going to hurt you. So if you can make it flawless, put in the time to do it. What do you think, Erin? Anything different?
Yes, and Microsoft Word in particular has the review option where the computer voice will read your document out loud. I catch so many grammatical errors when I'm writing grant applications or even emails or even any other writing that I'm attempting to get published. So listening to your work is a useful tool to double check anything for grammar. And I'll also add, whatever documents that you have authored yourself, they all need to be consistent in formatting, the same font, the same size, the same margins, because consistency and attention to detail should be top priorities for you. So keep that in mind. Again, your recommenders, they're going to have a different format for their letters every time, but you're not going to know that. But your resume, your personal statement, any other supplemental essays, they all need to be consistent in formatting.
Yeah, 100% agree. Consistency it's easy to do. And so if you don't do it, it's going to stand out in a very negative way. Yeah.
So common pitfalls. Number one is incomplete submissions. You should always double and triple check that all sections and essays and attachments are complete. So I'm going to add one item. You should, on your home desktop or laptop, have a folder for each school that has the title of the document, the school name, in a consistent file format. So that way, when you are triple checking your submission, you know you've attached the right essay or the right personal statement to that specific school's application. If you make an error, that could completely jeopardize your ability to even be considered by an admissions committee. Say you want to attend Baylor, but you attached an essay regarding why you want to go to Harvard. That's a big no-no. So make sure your labels are correct and that they're consistent. I also, and this is my own personal opinion, I never put EC resume number 11 as a title name for certain attachments. Make sure it's consistent and professional as if you're applying for a job. And people do read your file names, as little and tedious as that seems. And so having a professional, consistent format is very important. We also want to add that generic applications will not get you anywhere, and you're competing against lots of other applicants. And this can be especially true after an election year or an election cycle. So make sure you highlight what makes you unique and what you can bring to that particular law school as compared to others. What do you think, Mika?
Oh, I would push on that one even harder. I mean, I guess what I see is a lot of students try to write what they think an admissions officer wants to hear, but you don't know what an admissions officer wants to hear, right? You're not one. You should be writing your story. You should be writing about who you are, because what admissions officers want is people that are distinctive, engaging, intelligent, and will be good members of the law school community and achieve a lot as alumni. That's what they want. They don't need you to posture. They don't need you to grandstand about things. They just want to know what you're like and get a feel for what's driving you. So be yourself in your application. Being insincere is not going to help. It will be sniffed out. That's what I would say more than anything else. Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
All right, so finalizing. I think we've kind of hit most of these already, or basically all of these, but just to review, lawyers are about nothing if not professionalism, right? That is our selling point. We are professionals. We behave in a professional way, and we approach things in a professional manner. So spelling and grammar errors, especially if there's more than just one or two of them, is not professional, and it doesn't reflect well on your ability to behave like a professional down the road. After all, a law school application is a pretty darn big deal, right? And so if you're not going to do your best on this, why would they think you do any better when you're a lawyer? you are encouraged to have people you think are good mentors or good advisors review your stuff. What I would say is, unless you have good reason to think they're a good writer, you should be asking for them to review your themes, the emotional impact, the broader perspective stuff. But when you write, you're writing in your own voice, and when people edit your stuff too hard, your voice can start to get lost in the shuffle, right? It's the too many cooks problem. So don't solicit actual edits from 7 different people. What ends up at the end of the day is something that sounds like 7 different people wrote it, and that isn't a good personal statement. Finally, every school, when you apply on the Credential Assembly Service, will have a big detailed list of instructions, right? What needs to be turned in, what's optional, what's non-optional, what the formatting requirements for things are, what sort of recommenders you need, how many of them, right? That instruction form is your best friend, right? As you start to apply, you need to verify your letters are there, and you need to read through and diligently follow those instructions. They spend a lot of time writing them. So if you don't follow them, again, that reflects negatively on you taking the process seriously, right? So be diligent and organized.
With this, make sure all components are polished and they align, and you have a consistent package that reflects back to your personal narrative and your resume. Again, double check those school-specific requirements and deadlines. They're all different. Tables, checklists, to-do lists should be your friend. And then confirm. I like to tell applicants, typically, and this happens frequently, you've kind of set time at the end of the day to prepare and add all your attachments in the server, and you're about to hit send. I always say, wait, go to bed, wake up the next day, do one more double check, and then hit send. Never submit an application to law school or any graduate school for that matter while you are sleepy, because mistakes can happen and you want to be fresh and clear and fine tune and double check for any random error that might be present, because you can't take it back, which is unfortunate, but it is the case. And that actually happens in the legal field. If you are preparing for court, you cannot take things back. And timing is important, and those details matter.
Amazing. So I want to hop back in. Just before we do this, I think we may have missed a slide.
Oh,
Did
okay.
we skip one?
I think we skipped one. Did we speak to this?
Maybe not,
I think,
but we
yeah,
can.
okay.
Yeah, Mika, did
Yeah,
you want to
I'll
quickly
jump in.
just? Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Yep. Someone said they skipped that one. Yep, of course.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
So, broader keys to a strong application. So, I always think that the ending of a personal statement is a perfectly fine place to talk a little bit about a law school and what a good fit there is. You mentioned a specific clinic or some sort of program that they run, or a particular scholar that you're already a fan of. That's great. Better usage is a YX essay for the schools that solicit them. It's essentially an essay where you talk about why that law school, usually 1 page or less. I always try to emphasize to people that, again, avoid grandstanding. Human reasons, down-to-earth reasons are compelling. So I grew up around here. I went to undergrad here. I want to live here and work here after law school is the best YX essay in the world, right? It's just straightforward, human, and real. So talk about why you want to go to a specific school. Talk about support networks, right? Talk about being your family and friends. Talk about your brother or sister having gone to a master's program there and thinking it was the best place in the world. Talk about what the school does well or what it's known for. Be specific. If you write a YX essay that says, I love their intellectual property program, I'm going to find you and beat you up because that's not a that's not a thing. Talk about a clinic they do. Don't talk about a program as a whole, right? The more specific you are, the more a school will buy into what you're saying. But if you just speak in really broad strokes about how respected a school is and how this program is really well known, did you even look at our website? Like that's the vibes you're giving off. When you're doing these, try to highlight how this matches you. So for instance, I'm going to use T14 examples. If you want to be a professor, go to Yale. If you want to be a judge, go to Stanford. Also, if you want to be a judge, go to U Chicago. Schools are known for certain things. If you want to be a partner at a big law firm, go to Harvard, right? Schools are known for specific things that they do well, right? It might even just be this is the dominant regional school, right? So if I want to go work in San Diego, you should go to USD, right? They are the dominant regional school. Finally, think about your resume themes as a whole. I don't think we've said this yet, but if your resume has no public service work on it, and I see your personal statement talks about how you want to change the world and make it better, I'm not going to believe you. I'm just not, right? Because your actions in your life thus far do not support the narrative you're trying to sell to me, right? So really think about what you're trying to tell and how the entire application package comes together to communicate those things. Make sure you're not inconsistent among documents. That stands out and it doesn't reflect well. Yeah.
I concur.
Any thoughts, Erin? Yeah.
I completely concur. And be as honest as you want. I mean, I've had some clients talk about the financial piece. I need to go to this school because I'm going to live with my aging grandma and help take care of her. And she's a supportive person in my life. And I'm dedicated to staying in this region or whatnot. Or, I need to be near XYZ because I am working and I want to attend your night program and I have a job at this company and they have a regional office and I want to stay committed and further my career by obtaining a JD to do X at this company. I mean, honesty is important, and being your authentic self and explaining that why will make it seem much more personable.
I love that. Thank you both for coming back to this slide. So this is when our audience steps in. We'd love to hear from you. Any sort of feedback that you can provide us. I promise the survey on that QR code is only a few questions long. We just want to hear some feedback about what you think went well, what we could potentially improve on. And we really do take this back and continue to just offer better sessions in the future. So we would really appreciate if you would take a moment. It just goes towards making these even more impactful. With that being said, I'd love to get right into the Q&A. We have about 8 minutes left. So there's a question, and there's a couple questions, but I think I'm going to summarize them because they're all relatively the same. I think this is perfect for you, Erin and Mika, because it's coming from non-traditional students. And in terms of letters of recommendation, there's individuals who maybe haven't been to school in 4 years, 18 years, and they don't necessarily have that connection with a professor. So what do they do for that portion of letters of recommendation?
You want to jump in, Mika?
No, you take the lead. Yeah.
So every university has a website and every university publishes professor email addresses. You might not necessarily recall your professor's name off the top of your head, but you can certainly request your transcript and then recall a class you really enjoyed or a program head that you knew. And you can reach out to them and check in, explain your situation, who you are, remind them of when you went to school and what your goals are, and have a meeting and check in with them. They can get to know you by affiliation, because technically I think professors can change based on tenure. And so if you haven't been to school in 20 years, things can change. That's not going to look negatively on your application. If you have that extensive time difference between when you're applying to law school versus when you obtained a bachelor's, but you're not wrong to go back to your alma mater and request a meeting and a reintroduction. And if not, some universities too still keep contact information of former professors. And if they are a professor and they're in good standing, they can write you a letter even if they're retired, right? So don't be afraid to make that reintroduction and communicate and advocate for yourself at your former alma mater.
I think that's basically what I would say too. I definitely think, professors are used to this scenario, I think, over time where, a student that they had a while back is now applying to law school and needs an academic reference. And I think most professors are very understanding those situations. And I think reaching out and doing a little bit of an update, kind of tell them what you've been doing and how, their class affected you potentially is a really good idea. I also offer a second back route, which is I have in fact written letters of recommendation for LSAT students before. As far as I'm concerned, that counts as an academic letter of reference.
It does.
Especially if you we have 24-hour packages, 60-hour packages. If I've been working with a student for 60 hours, I've gotten to know them pretty well and what they're like as a person and how hard they're willing to work, how diligent they are. So that's also a possibility too. You can get an LSAT tutor just to help you get a letter of reference.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's stick with this letter of reference trend because there's quite a few questions regarding letters of recommendation.
Yeah.
So Arizona State University has a maximum of 2 and emphasizes that they are optional. So in these cases, should students still ask for letters of recommendation even if they're optional? Or are they optional?
You're probably gonna, if you're only applying to Arizona State, then maybe I guess you don't. But if you're applying to schools that have requirements, why wouldn't you submit the ones that you're already getting? Would kind of be my response. I don't think that a good letter of recommendation is never going to be bad for your application. So why not use the chance to have an extra positive, right? Somebody who knows you and can opine on whether you'll be a good lawyer, and they talk a lot, talk you up. I don't know why you would pass on that opportunity when it's there. It's kind of what I would say.
Yes. And say a school is down to 2 applicants and you are exactly the same on all evaluation factors, but one of you submitted an optional letters of recommendation, they're probably going to go with the applicant that went above and beyond and submitted that optional letter of recommendation. So keep that in mind. This is very competitive. And if you can stand out, you want to stand out. So if you have time, request the letters of recommendation.
100%. Yeah.
Awesome. So I think the next question is more about a timeline, and I'd be curious to know if any more students are in a similar boat. But Lily is starting in late sorry, I just need to go back. So it looks like Lily's starting her application in late February, early March 2025. She's in the middle of a move, but it's not too late for a fall 2026 goal entry. So if somebody's interested in fall 2026, is it too early or too late, I should say, to start in February, start the application process?
No. So the application cycle is usually like a 1 year in advance. So if you're attending this fall, preferably you would have started applying in late October, early November, and had all of your applications in around then. The application season isn't over yet because we do rolling admissions for law school applications. But no, you're well on time. You're about 5 months, 5 to 8 months in advance of when you'd actually submit the application. So definitely not too late.
Amazing. So we have time for one more
Yeah.
question. I think this is a really interesting question. So is there a preferred format for the names of the documents? Because I know we talked about that, like those fine details, such as such as last name, first name, title, or does it depend on the school?
I mean, some schools might have file format requirements, so make sure you review all of their instructions. But really, there's no, I guess, wrong way to do it, but I would just be consistent. So if you always do last name, comma, first name, comma, title of the document, then be consistent. Calloway, comma, Erin, comma, resume. Calloway, comma, Erin, comma, personal statement, right? Make sure it's legible, because if there's ever downloading and it gets lost on someone's computer or an admissions committee member gets confused, they want to make sure they can match all your documents together and not lose anything. So good question.
Yeah. You can see mine in the chat. I put what my naming format is for everything, which is I put today's date. I put it in an order that makes it instantly searchable from A to Z by date. And then I put the name of the document, and then I put my name at the end. It's professional, it's clean. That's it. That's what you want your file names to look like, just professional and clean and consistent. Yeah.
Okay, so I know we said that was the last question, but there's one more, and we're right at the hour, so I wish we could spend even more time on this. But William asks, so I should have started last year for this year's submission?
I mean, it depends. Have you taken the LSAT already? I mean, have you requested letters? I mean, I think it depends on how many schools you want to apply to and what their requirements are. So if you want to start this coming August 2025, the admission cycle is still open. I mean, I'm sure schools that you're interested in applying to have probably sent out some of their acceptances, but they still have some students on the wait list. If you have a stellar application, submit it. I always believe earlier is better once you're ready and have a thorough, solid, consistent package to send to schools. But it just depends on how far along you are in collecting your items. You don't have to wait until the portal's open to, start on your personal statement or work on any potential essays. What do you think, Mika?
Yeah, I guess I was confused with the question. So this year is starting August, fall 2025. Applications for fall of 2025 open in October/November of 2024. The admission cycle is still ongoing, but we're well into the round of maybe 50% of any given law school's class has already been filled, right? So as the cycle continues, the competition for those remaining slots becomes even more intense. So preferably, yes, you would have already submitted your application materials about 3 months ago. If you don't have an LSAT score, then yes, you are too late for this cycle for the vast majority of schools. Some schools will accept February scores, but that would be by far the latest that they would accept. But if you haven't started studying for the LSAT yet, I definitely would not encourage you to take it in 3 weeks from now. So a good timeline is to start studying for the LSAT at least 6 months before you plan to apply. So if you want to apply this upcoming fall for a spot in fall 2026, then I would tell you to get started with LSAT studies soon, quite soon if possible. Yeah.
Great. Okay. We are past the hour. So I think this is a really great time to wrap up tonight's discussion. There's a ton of questions in the chat that unfortunately won't be able to get to tonight, but we recommend you book that free consultation, especially if it's a very specific question and you want to speak to an expert about your situation. That is what we're here for. That is what we will support you for. Please don't hesitate. Mika, Erin, thank you again for being here tonight. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and your wisdom. And as always, much appreciated. And thank you to our awesome audience. We
Yeah,
had such an
thank you all
incredible
for
audience
coming.
tonight. Yeah, thank you all for coming and thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Yes,
And we
best
hope
of
to
luck.
see. Yes, best of
Mhm.
luck. And we do have webinars coming out every single week. So please check our website, subscribe to our newsletter, follow us on social media, especially those who are interested in upcoming webinars. I know there's a ton of people who are were asking about the non-traditional webinar that we have coming up. So
Yeah.
we're excited to have
Well,
you here. And Mika, I think you're presenting at that one, so it's perfect.
yeah, we've got LSAT secrets next Tuesday, I think. Is that right?
I
Or
believe
is that
so,
the
yes.
following line? Okay. Yeah.
We do this on a weekly basis, folks. We love doing
Yeah.
this. We love showing up for you guys. So thanks so much, everyone. I hope everyone has a wonderful evening and best of luck.